Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mwale, and in this video I'm going to do a review of WPMU DEV Hosting. If you're new to this channel, do consider subscribing because on here I make videos about creating, managing and promoting websites just like this one, but I also make videos about digital marketing in general. With that said, let's dive right into the video. When it comes to web hosting, there are so many factors that you can consider to arrive at a good decision about which platform to host your site on. It's really difficult to look at every single one of them in a single video, so instead what I did was choose 5 areas that I think will be especially helpful to you and of interest. So the 5 areas that we're talking about are speed, uptime, support, features, and finally pricing, because we don't want to break the bank, right? So let's start with talking about speed. So when we talk about a website speed, the metric or parameter that you want to think about is TTFB, or in other words, time to first byte. So this is considered to be a good measure of how responsive your website's server is. So if you want to compare two different servers, what you can literally do is get a website, put it on server number 1, put it on server number 2, and check from the same locations if the time to first byte is higher or lower. If it's lower, that's better. So setting up tests like this can take a lot of time, and it's crazy how much effort is required to make sure that the tests are consistent and accurate. So we're not going to do that ourselves because WPMU Dev already did these tests and shared the results, and I'm going to have a link for you to where you can find these results. And you might be thinking, can we really trust the people who are selling to give us accurate information? That is a good question, but I have been using WPMU Dev Hosting for 2 years or a little bit more than that, and so I'm going to be as objective as possible when we look at these numbers. I think they are a good reflection of what's actually happening. So I'm just going to show you this table. We're looking at my screen right now, and we can see that this table has 4 columns. First one is the platform. We have 9 different hosting companies. We have max parallel clients. What that means is we are being told how many visitors our site can take before it can't take anymore. So it's an estimation of how many people can use the site at the same time. I wouldn't worry too much about this, but here we see WPMU Dev does better than every single platform that it's compared against here. Then we talk of time to first byte. We already talked about it. This is an average for all locations. WPMU Dev has 10 different data centers, so you can host your site in 10 different countries. If you take the TTFB for the same site from different locations, different countries, this is the average that we are seeing in our table here. We can see WPMU Dev isn't the best, it's somewhere in the middle. We see platforms like Flywheel doing better with 181 milliseconds, which is twice as good as WPMU Dev's 425. But if we jump to the last column, which is the TTFB average, but this time geo-optimized, what that means is that we're looking at a site and doing tests. For example, the server is in Germany, and then we do a number of tests right within Germany, and then we do an average, and there you go. WPMU Dev comes out on top with a really impressive TTFB of 16.65 milliseconds. So is your site going to be fast on WPMU Dev? 100%. Is WPMU Dev the absolute fastest WordPress host? No, I wouldn't go that far. and that's basing it on these results. So speed is really important because I'm just gonna throw up some stats for you guys, because you may be wondering, why are we spending so much time looking at the stats of how fast the WPMU Dev servers are? So I chose two stats that I want to share with you. The first one is that nearly 70% of consumers admit that page speed impacts their willingness to buy from an online retailer. These are facts. I'm not making this up. I'm going to have them for you in the description. Let's also talk about another statistic, which is that conversion rates drop by an average of 4.42% each additional second of load time within the first 5 seconds. That's crazy. So every second within the first 5 seconds that your website loads, your conversion rates are dropping by almost 4.5%. So you don't want that. When it comes to speed, I give WPMU Dev a thumbs up. Let's talk about uptime. To discuss uptime, we're going to jump into my screen and look at the WPMU Dev terms of service, and there we see that we have a 99.9% uptime guarantee at a service level. So service level agreement, SLA, whatever. All this means is that WPMU Dev is going to compensate us. At least that's how I understand it. I am not a lawyer, but it means that we're going to be compensated if our site is down for more than 0.01% of the month, in question. So definitely, I don't know what you're selling, but this is good enough for me. So when it comes to the uptime, once again, thumbs up. Let's also discuss the support. And guys, I cannot stress how important support is in the long run when it comes to web hosting, because if your site is down for several hours, for several days, that can cost you a lot in terms of sales, and you don't want that to happen. So in case of anything, you want a group of capable people that are helpful to get your website up and running in the fastest amount of time possible. WPMU Dev has 24/7 support, which is just fantastic, right? But how good is the support? In my experience, they just have the nicest, most capable people working there, and they're just really helpful. So I give it a thumbs up yet again. But don't take my word for it. I'm going to have a link for you below that shows the reviews, and just see how many people are going on about how great their support team is. I 100% give it a thumbs up. And guys, this doesn't mean that every issue is going to be resolved in the next 5 seconds, no. But even when you face issues that are more complex, take a bit longer to solve, you know that the people that are working on it are dedicated, they're nice, friendly people that are capable of resolving the issue. So thumbs up. Let's talk about features. So I'm just gonna take a break here because I've been talking for a little while now and I'm starting to feel a little bit funny, but I will be back in the next second. Let's now talk features. When it comes to features, there is once again a long list of things that we can talk about, but we don't have time for that. And many of them, to be honest, you just simply will not care about. For example, WPMU Dev gives you a dedicated IP address. What does that mean? It means that you don't share an IP address with other sites. So for example, if you are on a shared hosting environment and one of the sites there is blacklisted, the IP gets blacklisted, that would affect you negatively, right? Because you're sharing the IP. So that's not possible in WPMU Dev, so it's better from a security standpoint. Now, most of us don't really care about that, so let's talk about things that you definitely will care about, is nightly backups. So WPMU Dev will automatically keep a copy of your site, and they will back up every day, every night. They're going to do a backup for you, which is great because you're investing a lot of time, a lot of money in your site, in your blog. You absolutely need a good backup system. WPMU Dev gives you just that. Another feature that I absolutely love is staging. Of all the features of WPMU Dev, this is my favorite one. They have a one-click setup, so you can copy your site onto a different section of the server, and doing that allows you to make changes on the copy without affecting your live site, without the danger of losing some of your work. So it's absolutely fantastic. I 100% recommend that you check out the WPMU Dev staging. What other features would you want to check out? We can talk about the SSL. So they give you basically unlimited free certificates if you're using multi-site. So for example, you have one WordPress installation, but you want to have 10 different sites in there with different domain names. WPMU Dev gives you free SSL, free security certificates for all of them. That's amazing, right? Because these certificates can cost from $10 to hundreds of dollars. So if you're saving $10, $100 for every site, that is really amazing. I also wanted to talk about something else. I forgot what it was. I'm going to make reference to the WPMU Dev website. Okay, here it is. Emails. I can't believe I almost didn't talk about the emails. WPMU Dev gives you 10 free email accounts. And you might be thinking, oh, this is fantastic. And it is. But I have to mention, this is one of the only things that I don't love about WPMU Dev, is that the emails are running on POP. So they don't use IMAP. What does that mean? It means that when you receive an email, that email is downloaded onto your computer and eventually it's deleted from the server. That's horrible, because if you want to use multiple devices to check your email, and if you want to go back to an email that was sent, that you received months ago, it may not be there. So definitely a minus there. And so the way around this is to use another email hosting service. So you can have your site on WPMU Dev and use Google Workspace. You can use Zoho Mail and any other email hosting service. Personally, I have a couple of other servers that allow me to use IMAP. So our company website uses WPMU Dev Hosting, but all my personal emails, company emails, are using a different server entirely. So this is something to keep in mind. If you want to cancel your current hosting, switch over to WPMU Dev, say, oh, they've got free email, you should know that their free email is not the best. It's good if you don't really care about keeping your emails for a very long time. Yeah, and they give you 10 free accounts, so that's fantastic. Moving on. Lastly, we can talk about pricing. So we're just going to jump into my screen yet again and see the kind of plans that WPMU Dev offers. Currently, they have 9 different plans. The cheapest one costs $15 a month. The most expensive one costs $1,800 a month. Okay, so let's look at, we're not going to look at every single plan. We're going to talk about the bronze plan, because a majority of people hosting on WPMU Dev, they are using the bronze plan. For example, all my sites, company sites, they are using the bronze plan. So what do we get? We get 20,000 monthly visits. That is an estimate. So what that means is WPMU Dev are telling us that our site can take roughly that many visitors before we have problems. So we could potentially get to more than that. They would not stop it, but also we could be on the lower end. So if our site isn't very well developed, or it's just very resource intensive, it requires a lot of resources, then we could have problems with just a few hundred visitors. So the only other thing that I want to mention here is when we talk about the storage, it says 25 gigabytes, but there's this little I, and if you hover over it, you see that 10 gigabytes is reserved for the system. So in reality, you only have 15 gigabytes of space to work with. So this is definitely a downside, and something to keep in mind. Our site isn't very large. It's only, I think, 1 gigabyte, so I don't really care. But in case you have a site that's 20 gigabytes large and you're thinking of moving to WPMU Dev, I just want you to know you cannot move it on the bronze plan, you cannot move it on the silver plan, you can move it on the gold plan or plans higher than that. So hopefully that makes sense. So now we can jump into the outro that I made before starting this video, because I'm now tired of talking. And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for checking out this review of WPMU Dev Hosting. Like I said, I've been using it for something like 2 years and I'm very happy with it personally, but that's just my experience. It's perfect for my needs, and in case you want to give it a try, they have a 30-day money back guarantee. So I'm going to have a link for you in the description where you can give it a try. And yeah, let me know what you think. Is it a good fit for you? I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks again for watching. I hope to see you soon. Until then, focus on your craft.